Hey, for another shot fired.
Copy, additional shot fired.
Shots fired, shots fired. He's shooting at us.
Suspect shooting an officer.
Down. He's at the base of the stairs, white t-shirt, white male.
Okay, guys, welcome back to part 2 of episode 18. And in part 2, we're going to be discussing, of all three of us, we all have quite a few years on in this job. And we're going to be discussing really what our breaking point was in our career that changed our life, changed who we are as cops, husbands, boyfriends, whatever, to our significant others in our family. So we're going to dive into that. I'll let Mark, I don't know if you want to kick it off. What was it that in your career, not one specific incident, but was there a time where, everything just kind of, your backpack overfilled and, things just kind of hit you? And how did you deal with it, right or wrong? And how do you, continue to manage that?
Well, I think I could kind of pinpoint mine to one incident, and that's what ultimately caused me to leave law enforcement, kind of unwillingly. It's, I did talk about it when you guys invited me on the show once. Ultimately, I was during a training exercise on the SWAT team and was mauled by one of the canines. They were unable to get the dog off of my leg. It worked its way up my leg, and dog shredded my leg. And I ended up going to the hospital, and my foot didn't work for months, and I was basically home, injured on duty, unable to work, and my foot did not work. And that was right during Thanksgiving, and it was like we were hosting, and it was like, oh my God, like this is, I don't know if my foot's going to ever work again. Like it literally flopped around. There's zero control of it. And it was such a huge wound on the side of my leg. Like I did not have the physical capability to clean that wound out every day. And my wife wasn't able to do it. It was disgusting. But my brother was actually able to do it. For some reason, it had zero effect on him. He was intrigued by like the muscles and like the bone. It was disgusting. But every fucking day for 4 months, he came over, cleaned my wound out and repacked it and then wrapped my leg. And like, I was not able to take a shower for like 4 days. And then I had to wrap my entire leg in plastic, tape my leg off so the water would run down and not get in the wound. Mm-hmm. I couldn't walk. Like I had to use crutches, which was really difficult. And then you think like my leg didn't fully bend yet. So to get into a car, my wife had to drive me everywhere because my foot didn't work. So she had to take time off of work. And like a day prior, November 13th, I went to work and it was normal. Came home right. November 14th. Like that was it, man. Like I couldn't drive. I couldn't do anything. And at the time, like you learn who your friends are, like who your support team is. You get a lot of support really fast. Mm-hmm. And then it's from the department, from everybody. And then it slowly goes away because it takes effort to like constantly check in. And it's like, it's exhausting for people to do that. And I understand the ones that like drifted back. I get it. It's very hard. They have their own lives. They have kids. They have a job. Like I get it. But your real true friends stand by you. And it's crazy to see that. And like, I have a handful of friends left from that. And then like I needed a lot of support because I got to the point where I was like really, really angry, very angry. Like this incident should never have happened. It was absolutely avoidable. And like my wife was pissed about it because it's affecting us. Like you just look at like income, like, gee, I worked 70 hours a week on call, paid car, gas. Like, I mean, it was a substantial income. And then all of a sudden, boom, it's gone. And thankfully we're smart and never lived on overtime. But like, dude, it was a major, major hit financially. Mm. Plus my wife was like, well, I can't work because I have to take care. I got to go to the doctor every 3 days. I was going to the wound clinic in Roseville to have it clean, like getting different x-rays, a neurologist, like all kinds of stuff. And like, you look at like the trauma that I'm dealing with of like not only am I trying to make sure that my leg works and I'm like trying to be healthy where I could at least walk. Like I have my wife at home that is not working. That's like traumatized by this incident. That's pissed off about it. That's like trying to help me. That's trying to process like what the fuck's happening. And then I'm like dealing with work, the work comp side where they're like, well, this is what you're getting. And you're just like, what am I, you mean getting? Like I'm getting this shitty doctor. So it's like,
that's a joke too. Work comp. That's a nightmare of itself.
Yeah. No one navigates you. No one helps you. Like the department doesn't help. And you're just on an island and you're just like, dude, these are like lifelong affecting decisions. And it's fucking a breaking point. Like it got to the point where I was like, depressed. I was fucking really angry. Like I would snap. I used to have a long fuse, like nothing bothered me. I was super easy going. And there was a time when it was just like, there was no fuse. Like I'd wake up mad. My wife was like, I praise her for standing by me because like, if she would have left, I would not have blamed her. I don't know why she stayed, like it was that shitty between the two of us. Like, we didn't individually fight, but it was just such fucking mess to deal with. And like, the friends at work start to venture away and you keep a few. And then it's like, I have her to like lean on and support. And then I have like my brother that is like the fucking core. But like at the time when we were going through this, my wife didn't have anyone to lean on. Her family, no one. Like they were busy dealing with like her sister, like other stuff. And like, dude, she had zero. And I'll tell you what, man, she was the stronger one of the two of us. Like, because I had my brother to talk to and her. And then, my brother helped her out a lot. And like the three of us, like the two of them, I owe everything to. But like, it was really, really difficult, very stressful. You're dealing with attorneys, like doctor's appointments. And like, then you get to the point where like people at work are like, you're a pussy, come back. And you're like, I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about. Like my foot doesn't work right now. Like it literally like, I'm limping. Like I have a gaping hole in my leg. I don't feel my foot. Like I literally still to this day, I can't feel most of my foot. Like there's just no feeling in it. It doesn't fully work.
Yeah.
And like, I got into this program, which I don't remember the name of it. And I don't even wish that I remembered the name of it. Cause it doesn't even fucking matter, but it was 3 days a week and it was 4 hours a day. And it was like a counseling type of a group of people that had been injured at work. One of my buddies that I did not know at the time ended up showing up to it. And then I met another guy that's a buddy of mine to this day. He was from your department. I'd met him in that. And it was like a revolving door. Like the class just had a curriculum and it just kept rolling. And like people would come into the class and then they, you were there for 3 months and then you were like completed it and then you left. But it was like constant a revolving door. But man, that class, like it was huge. Like it saved my life, dude. Like I literally went into that class, arms folded, leaning back in the chair, fucking angry. And like, I remember everyone looking at me like, this guy's an asshole. Why is he here? And I told him, I don't want to fucking be here, but like, I know I need to be here. And I remember like when the day I was done and I left, I was like I literally cried in this group of people, like, thank everybody for what you've done for me. Like I literally felt like I was standing at the edge of the ocean, looking out at the water, like where the fuck is my support group? Like where are people? And then I realized like all I had to do was turn around and like everyone was there.
Yeah.
When did you have the realization that this career that I love and that I've obviously worked really hard to do is done, or it could be done? Like, was it pretty soon? Like, I'm sure you had an idea.
Well, I like the question of like when it's done, because there obviously there came a point where you did realize like it's done. I'm obviously done.
It's not want, it's can't.
Yeah.
Like November is when it happened. I remember the end of March into April, like going to the doctors and they're like, this is it. Like your foot doesn't work. Like the ability for you to run is gone. Like you could jog here and there. Like, and then it was like, oh my God. Like, because when I got hurt, I was like, oh fuck, man, I'll tough this out. I'll be right back to work. And then it got, maybe 7 months in, I realized like, I'm not going back to work. Like this is it. And then you realize like, okay, I'm not going back to work. and this is the job I've been doing for almost 14 years. What the fuck is going to happen when I'm done? How am I going to leave this job? And then what am I going to do after that?
Right.
Because like, I'm young, man. I mean, you guys think I'm old as shit, but I'm still pretty young. Like, I can't just, I mean, I could not just work if I didn't want to, but like, dude, I'd go crazy. Like, I need to stay busy, but like, what skills do I have? So now you're basically going from knowing that you're done and then dealing with work, your attorneys, like your family. And then it's like, oh my God, dude, this is it. And it's like, you know, I look at those people that are at the time most people would retire at 50 that are like 45 and they're like, all right, I got 5 years to go. This is what I'm going to do. I got 2 years. Next month, I'm going to like,
well, they have time to plan for it.
Yeah. Right. And you see that and you could foresee and you have all these things lined up. But mine was just like, boom, one day. That was it. Never got back in the uniform, nothing. And to try and deal with that and to realize like 7 months in, I'm not going back to work. Like, what the fuck am I going to do? It's crazy. It's a weird.
I think your story kind of falls in line with a lot of these military guys, especially SF guys that are coming out who are like at the fucking echelon of like, they are like the top tier professionals of military. And then it's like, you know, like Navy SEAL dudes or whatever. And then it's like, all of a sudden you're not that anymore. You're just a normal citizen, right? Those guys seriously struggle. And I think some people are like, well, how hard is that? Right? Like integrating back into society. And, I would probably admit I've thought that long ago, but, you know, and talking to you, like it falls in line with that. Like when this is all, you know, when you are at like in your job, I mean, you're on a full-time SWAT team in a big, busy city. Not everybody gets to do that. I mean, that's rare. To just be like, I'm not that anymore. And I'm not even a cop anymore. Like, I think that hits people really hard.
Well, the hard part was I'd set up a meeting with the team and like they didn't really know, but I still had my assigned work car, still had all my gear in the trunk, but I was only able to, because I was light duty. I still was going to the office working in, professional standards unit within internal affairs division.
Snitch.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But I tell you what, I learned a ton of stuff there. But the worst, man, was when I'm at the table with all the guys in the office, and someone comes in and says, "You can go home. That today is your last day. Like right now is your last day. You're done." And I was like, and everybody looks at me like, "What the fuck?" And I was just like, I didn't even know how to respond. Like there was zero emotion.
Yeah.
And I remember. He's a buddy of mine. I hunt with him all the time. I literally credit him to basically after law enforcement, and he knew one of the other guys that had retired from our department that had that was working, and he's like, call him, he'll set you up. And I did. But I remember driving my fucking work car to the station and sitting there and like turning in all my gear out of my car. And it's like, dude, that was my life for 5 years. I drove this thing. And then I got to go in the locker room and like empty out my locker. And it's like, I did it late at night cause I didn't want to see anybody. Cause I wasn't, to me, it's like the guys that make it 50 years, like they're the ones that go in the daytime, clear the locker out. And everyone's like, dude, hell yeah. Good work. Like it wasn't my fault, but like, it's weird. It was really hard. It was really, really hard at home. My wife had a really hard time. She had no support at all from anyone other than my brother. And like, we pulled through it, and like, I went to counseling. I've apologized a ton of stuff, a ton of times. I went to a psychologist, and I was fucking terrified. And I went with her, and I was like, you got to go with me. And the guy's like, she can stay out here. And I was like fucking trembling. And she's like, you'll be fine. Like, just tell this guy, like, just talk to him. And I came out and I was like, hugged her. I was like, what the fuck? Like, that was amazing release. Like, it was awesome. Totally worth it. And I saw him for months, but it's, you gotta be, like everything that I reached, I knew I had a problem. Like, I knew I was angry. I knew I was fucking mad. Like, no fuse, like a dick. Like, and that's, the crazy thing is to be the person that I was, but not, and to know I'm not, and to know that that's who I was. Like, I was on a lane and I was the lane over and I'm like, I should be in that lane. That's like who I am, but I'm stuck in this lane and I'm fucking being a dick.
Yeah.
I guess kind of a couple parts to the question. Do you think there is a way that you can prepare yourself for the possibility of a situation like that happening?
Yes, I do. I cut you off because like I'm very confident with that answer. Yes. Yeah. And what I would recommend to anybody, and you should share it with all of your friends, is that there is life outside of law enforcement because you guys are in it right now and you don't see it because you're in it. I've been out of it for 2.5 years. I see it, but there is a lot of opportunity. It's a job. Like law enforcement, it's an honorable career. Like it's amazing. Like I applaud every cop that even to this day wants to be in it, but it's a job. And when you're in it, it demands so much and it creates a small world that you feel that's it. So if you think that there's something or there is nothing outside, you're wrong. There's all kinds of stuff. There's so many different careers and jobs that hire only cops because of your experience.
Yeah.
Investigations for specific companies that hire undercover employees. Like there's all kinds of stuff. So if you are in a position where you're scared or you think you can't, there is something, hit me up or I think it's DM or some shit to Instagram or something.
Just message. Yeah, just say message.
Message me or hit Kyle up if I don't respond because I don't know how to do it. But like there is stuff and I will help you.
He is 60.
I will help you find something because there's plenty of stuff to do.
I'll give you his flip phone number.
Yeah.
So yes, there
His
is
jitterbug.
Yeah,
there is all kinds of stuff out there.
Yeah, no, you're right, dude. I mean, and we've talked about that. And I've got other friends who have medically retired and they all say the same thing.
Yeah.
That's super valuable advice, I think.
And I think that, you said it great, but don't let this job define you.
Yeah.
Don't be like, I am a cop first and then I'm this. Be like, I am this. My job is a cop.
Yeah.
And I know it's hard. Like to a lot of people, I know it's hard because
it's all really.
And you can't have that conversation. Like, your non-cop friends aren't going to start laughing when you start talking about a dog bite rolling up your leg.
Yeah, true.
They're going to be like, oh my God, that's
mortified.
Traumatic. They're mortified. Like it's moving up your leg. And, I'm sitting here thinking like,
is he going to lose his dick?
He's going to lose his dick,
Yeah.
like, and that's, so we have that in law enforcement where we can joke about some things, which is a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
It's actually a great coping mechanism, I think, to a certain extent.
No, it is. It is.
As long as you realize that it's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
You got to laugh about some things. Not losing your dick, I think that would.
Yeah, that's
you did laugh. Technically, you laughed
if you
about
actually
it.
lost your dick, I would have been like, oh, this is gonna. This
Did you keep the other end of it?
We're going to talk about his losing his
I
dick.
think we would have had to end the podcast and been like, wow, you didn't tell us that before, dude.
Can we see pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing to see, Billy.
No way, it's gone.
I'm not going to go there, but
yeah,
man. I mean, it was, that was a shitty circumstance, and
No, yeah, it's shitty, and since I've met you, I've had to have some questions in my own mind about like, okay, like what if tomorrow I blow out my back or I'm paralyzed or whatever it is, I lose an arm, I'm done with this career. Like, what's next step?
There's always something, dude. And like I said, I'll help you out. But the interesting thing, and I've said this off to the side, like my law enforcement career is a book, dude. And I closed it and I put it on a shelf and like the crazy thing is I can look back and it's filled with stories.
Yeah. Right.
Like all kinds of crazy stuff, and it's like
and
a lot
more
of people
than
don't
most
have
cops
that.
though too.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
true.
thing is in your 15, 15.
14.
Yeah. You did more than a lot of 30, 40 year
True.
people did.
Yeah.
It's
true.
That's huge. And I've never met somebody who was a SWAT guy. So I don't think we really even talked about some of the SWAT stuff that you did, but I'm sure we will at some point.
Yeah.
Who's done some basically badass SWAT shit, tactical shit, and then also saved a little kid and got her a house and all this other stuff. Like that's
a new girl.
Let's talk about opposite ends of the spectrum, right? Of law enforcement, that's huge. You bridged a gap that a lot of people are, some people will be like, okay, I'm the tactical guy, and they stay on that stay in that lane, right? And then there's the community outreach officers, and you're like, okay, stay in that lane. Well, you're the cop. Cop's a cop. They got to do it all. Wear those many hats, and you went from that end to that end. And I'm sure you went everywhere in between too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did work quite a few assignments.
Yeah, you get to hang your hat up.
But that's not assignment related necessarily.
No,
like,
it's not, yeah.
I mean, obviously, the SWAT guys are going to do a lot more tactical stuff than anyone else, and they're going to have a lot more opportunities to do that. But I think there's no cop out there that doesn't have that opportunity to help out like you did. There's no one out there.
No,
there's a lot of cops that don't. Me for one, I mean, I can't think of a situation where it was like the same as that, but I know that I've never done anything like that.
Well, now you can.
Yeah, you know, I mean, no, honestly, seriously, I mean, I will. That will be in the back of my mind, and I hope people that are listening. It's like I don't know, like why do we not know that's an option? Yeah. We all do, or maybe we don't think about it.
I think we just choose not to. You know, I think we choose to just go about our day and handle calls and then go home. You know, but yeah, you do have the availability to change someone's life more so than probably most people, just given our profession. Yeah. So yeah, that's it's a good story, and I think there's a lot to learn from your story for sure, especially guys that are medically retiring. You know, kind of not realizing that they're done, and how to deal with that. It just, like I said, just like the military, you know, the transitioning life back to civilian life. To me, it's the same thing. So for me, obviously I'm still in the job, but, something where my career, shifted gears was, I believe it was, 2018, I had been in, I'd been in 3 officer involved shootings in a matter of 3 years. And that doesn't even include, that's just me personally being involved in that stuff. That's not even including all the other shit that I'd been involved in, other officer involved shootings where I wasn't the shooter, being on scene for, officers that were killed and all those things, for me personally, I think after my 3rd shooting, I came back to work, it was my first day back actually. And, I remember sitting in briefing and, they played a video of, it just happened to be of an officer involved shooting, from YouTube or whatever. And I remember sitting there thinking, I got like this pit at the bottom of my stomach and I'm like, I'm not ready for this shit. Like I just wasn't feeling good. And I had dealt with my other shootings pretty good, I thought. I did notice changes about myself, that I think I shoved aside that everybody else noticed. But, and that was treating people like shit, coworkers. I'd be on calls and the slightest things would piss me off, or if like an officer had bad officer safety and messed something up, not intentionally, but I would like snap on them because I knew that, it could potentially turn into something bad, like a shooting or whatever. So, I've definitely got fault in that. And, I don't know that I knew I was doing it. I don't really realize how bad I was doing it until, some of my really good friends that were, sergeants, lieutenants or whatever, were distancing themselves from me, and nobody really said anything to me at work about it. One guy did, but, I don't know. It just seemed to me like I was getting this anxiety and stress, and like I would start like getting fucking like sweaty palms. Like if any type of somewhat of priority call would come out, I pretty much was going to everything thinking like somebody wanted to kill me. And obviously that's super unhealthy as a cop. Yeah.
As a human, that's unhealthy.
Yeah. So
that's not,
it was almost like, I don't even know how to describe it, like taking hypervigilancy to a whole new level. But I was so afraid to show anybody because, when you're involved in stuff like that, and I was a canine handler, so I was always getting to do cool shit. And then being involved in all those shootings, like guys like look up to you. And, these newer, younger guys would always talk about like, oh dude, if I'm ever in a shooting, I want you there. And like, it almost felt like, people would put you on kind of a pedestal. And, for me, I'm like, I'm feeling all this anxiety and stress and shit from it all. And, I was told myself, I'm like, well, fuck, I can't tell anybody because then I'm going to let everybody down that looks up to me. So I think I did a really good job of hiding it. being a dickhead to other cops and stuff. Obviously I couldn't hide that, but all the other stuff,
Probably
the stress,
because you're just a dickhead.
yeah, that's probably
They're
true.
just like, oh, that's just Kyle.
That's probably true, but like the anxiety, the stress, I would feel my heart rate just start like wanting to beat through my chest, responding to a call, and I could hide that stuff. Ultimately until it came to a boiling point, and that's when, I remember vividly, and I talked about this on when I was on Mike Ritland's show. Getting dressed for work one day. Obviously, as a canine handler, we throw our stuff on, and actually, I talked about this in episode 3. If you guys haven't listened to that episode with a therapist, but a post-trauma therapist. But I can remember like getting dressed for work one day and get my work pants on, and I'm thinking to myself like, I'm already starting to get my heart rate's going up, like I'm feeling fucking anxious, and I was finally like that day, I don't even know what it was, but I was like, I'm done. I'm not fucking doing this anymore. And I didn't even I got my pants on, and that was it. Told myself I'm not doing this shit anymore. I had it in my head like that day I'm going to quit. Like I was just going to fucking cold turkey quit. Called up the sergeant that's working that day, and I told him, I'm like, yeah, I'm fucking done. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm done. I'm not fucking coming to work today. I don't know what to tell you. Like I'm over this. And I kind of opened up to him a little bit on the phone, and he's like, dude, meet me in a parking lot. Not at the station, just meet me in a parking lot. So we end up meeting in a McDonald's parking lot. And I really appreciate this guy. We were never close. We really never worked with each other. So, anyways, I meet up with him, and he's like, man, we were all kind of wondering like when this was going to happen, because I had experienced so much crazy shit in like such a short amount of time. I think people were shocked that I was still even going to work every day. Mm-hmm. So, we had that discussion in the parking lot, and he's like, nobody blames you for doing this right now. He's like, take your time, like take some time, handle your shit basically. And, take care of yourself. And so we did the paperwork, whatever, workman's comp, like you said, and you hit it when you said, like, when you go on a workman's comp, dude, like you fucking feel like you're on an island, and the longer you're out, people start fucking disappearing. And your friends that you thought were friends don't contact you anymore. Your admin, your bosses, they're not contacting you anymore, right? And I don't blame them. Like, they have a fucking job to do. And I'll tell everybody this, dude. In law enforcement, I don't care how fucking good you are. Like, the day you're not there, the clock keeps ticking, calls keep coming out, and guys are going to keep doing their job. Like, so I totally understand that. But at the time, it was just, I just didn't know. I didn't know where to turn. I didn't know anything about post-trauma therapists. As cops, like, we weren't really educated on that.
Right.
So we can all agree in our job, like, you just kind of put that shit aside and didn't really talk about it.
Well, I want to touch on the, people, the thinning the herd, or whatever we want to call it, once you're leaving and everything. Mm-hmm. And I can say I'm probably guilty of it. I'm probably been on the other side. I haven't been in your guys' shoes, but I want to say, and I could be wrong, and maybe I am or maybe I'm not, but it's part of it. I think is that officer or that person doesn't want to realize that this can happen to them, so they want to distance themselves from it. Where they're like, okay, like, that's not. I can't handle it in my own way.
Yeah, and that
could, like, I can't accept that, that Mark's done, so I'm going to sit there and I'm going to deal with it in my own way. And my own way is I'm going to just walk away from, and it's fucked up and it's selfish.
Are you talking about people distancing themselves from you?
Right. Like, you talked about, like, when it first happened, everyone's like, calling you every day. They're there for you.
Well,
got your back and everything. And then it starts to taper off.
Yeah.
I think why that happens though is like, and again, it's because I'm not in law enforcement anymore. It's a job. And like other jobs, if you worked at a grocery store and you got hurt, you had a forklift fucking ran your foot over, like, people probably call you and then you venture away.
Right.
Because you realize that you might have a handful of friends that work there, but most are coworkers.
Yeah.
And in law enforcement, it's the same way. You have a ton of coworkers. It's a different relationship of a coworker. And then you have like your friends. Mm-hmm. So like when you do get hurt or when you do venture out and you start to drift away. I don't think it's personal. I don't
think so either.
It's kind of
I don't think it's personal. That's not what I think it's personal on their end. I think that maybe they do think of you as a friend, or they are friendly with you.
No, I found that it's a two-way street, because I would find, like, I'd be like, dude, why haven't someone texted me? And my wife would be like, have you texted them? I'm like, no. And she's like, well, it's a two-way street. And I'd be like, oh shit. And I'd be like, dude, what's up? And then it'd be like, oh, hey. And then it's like, so it is a two-way street,
right?
But it's exhausting for everybody.
I think it depends also on the circumstance. Like my circumstance, everyone obviously knew I went out on like a stress leave, mental health type deal. Right. And so I truly think that people feel awkward. Like they don't know what to say to you. And I think it's a sense of kind of awkwardness, or they just don't know what to say. Hey, did you hear that? It sounded like a big old loud explosion outside.
Explosion.
So I truly think that's a lot to do with it. I think people just don't know what to say, and that's fine. I'm totally fine with that. But so back to how I dealt with it. I cut you off. Huh? No, it's all good. It's all good. What was upsetting to me was, and again, I'm not faulting my department. Like I'm not faulting anybody at my agency. Like I just truly think that it just wasn't a thing back then. Right. So I had to go out and seek out my own post-trauma therapist, and I had to do my own research and find out what the fuck was wrong with me. And I was on the brink of quitting. I didn't want to do the job anymore. And dude, honestly, like I remember, Steph and I my girlfriend drive down to meet an attorney I'm going to sign paperwork to fucking put in my retirement papers to medically retire. And, this dude, like, albeit he was an attorney, he was like, he's like, dude, you've been through a lot of shit. Like why are you wanting to quit? Right. So I tell him, and he's like, you have the opportunity to like help out a lot of other people that are probably going through what you've been through, or who are going to experience what you've been through. He's like, man, maybe you ought to think about it. Really give it some thought if you just want to quit. And then he's like, and then if you do, come back and hit me up. And he's like, I'll fill this paperwork out for you, and it's a done deal. And I thought that was really cool of him, because I went home, cool. I talked to Steph about it, and was obviously super supportive of whatever decision I wanted to make, but she agreed. And, I talked to my uncle who I, like I said earlier, was a cop. And, man, I'm like, I think I went from like feeling sorry for myself, and I had to really push out the white noise of people making me feel sorry for myself. Like people that would call me and say, I'm so sorry that this happened to you. And, like, oh my God, I can't believe it happened again. And all this shit, which really kind of plays in your head, like making you feel like a victim of something. I just kind of had to like push that shit out and started focusing on the positive side of it. And that's kind of when I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go get some help. So I went out, sought out my own therapist, who was Melissa, who we had on our show, episode 3. Please check that out. And she dives in that episode deep into like what EMDR therapy is and how post-trauma sticks in people's brains, and why we don't connect the dots. She really explains that well in that episode. And so anyways, I end up doing those therapy sessions with her. I think I did a total of like 16 of them, so I was out of work for about 5-6 months. And at the end of it, I told myself, I'm like, I'm going to fucking come back. I'm going to be better. Like I'm going to help other cops. Like that was my goal. And then so I ended up going back to work, and I would say this to everybody. I've had cops hit me up, and they've been out of work, same circumstance, and they're like, hey, I'm going back to work, but what should I expect? And that's a valid question, because I was terrified. I was like, man, I lost all my credibility. People are going to think I'm fucking, strange, or that I'm a psycho or some shit.
You are strange.
Yeah, I'm definitely strange. I'm kind of a psycho, but no, seriously. I had that fear. Yeah, I had that fear. And I talked to one of my bosses, and he's like, dude, don't worry about that. Like, just come back to work, just show people that you've changed, for the better. Right. And I went back into work with the attitude that I may not have everybody's trust, and I'm totally okay with that. And I know I left kind of on a bad foot, treating people like shit. And again, I'm totally cool with that. I just went into it thinking, I'm just going to prove that I'm different. And when I went back, man, I just treated people with respect. I would really reach out to people and try to help them out. yeah. And, you know, slowly over time, I think I just built back the trust of the department, and I was vulnerable too about what I went through.
Do you think that your perception of how like people thought of you was way blown out of proportion?
Totally.
Like once, like you're talking about I got to go back, and you know my credibility's gone, or whatever words, and then you got back and you're like, oh, dude, that's all in my head.
It was 100%. And I talked to guys about that. Some of the senior guys who I knew would shoot me straight, you know, and they were like, dude, that couldn't be so far from the truth. Like, people fucking highly look up to you.
Yeah.
And the fact that like you even are back, like, dude, I was so wrong in my head about what I thought people thought of me. Nobody thought that of me. Like, it was all in my head. And so, but nonetheless, you know, I wanted to prove different. And then it just turns out, luck would have it, like, I don't know, a few months after I come back, you know, I end up getting in another shooting.
It's not like people look at that and be like, oh, you chuckle about that. Like,
well, yeah, but
that's part of the law enforcement thing. It's like,
but here's,
you is what.
Yeah, but here's the ironic thing about that, right? So I get in that shooting again, which was wild shootout. You know, honestly, I'm lucky to be alive.
That was crazy. We've shown the video, I think, right?
No, we haven't shown the video on here, but I'll consider it. But the thing about that was, I was in that shooting with a brand new cop, fresh off of training. That was his first week off of training. Yeah. And he got into the shooting with me like, you know, it was a fucking shootout, running down the sidewalk after somebody. I mean, it doesn't get kind of any more wild than that. And he was in it, right? Man, I was able to process that so much better just going through the therapy, taking care of myself. I was able to process it, and I focused my attention on him because he was so new. And I'm like, I don't want him to be fucked up because of this. So I pretty much forced him to go do the therapy, and he did it. And, dude, this dude's a 35-year-old man, played college football, you know, wanted to go pro and got hurt, you know, so he's no 22-year-old fucking kid. Like, he's a grown ass man. And he went and did the therapy, and to this day, you know, he's thankful that he did it because it forced him to process what happened, and he didn't just fucking put it off.
Yeah. Do you think it's the EMDR that helped? Yeah,
I do, because what EMDR therapy is, and I'm not going to, you know, fully get into it because, again, we did a whole episode on it, but it connects the dots in your brain, and it helps you get past that trauma that you're storing onto. And it just really, it helps your brain process, you know, what occurred. And so, again, I'm not going to dive super deep into it because it's pretty complicated, but yes, I do believe that wholeheartedly changed me. I mean, I was having nightmares all the time. I'd wake up, my fucking back would be in so much pain, I could barely walk, and I couldn't figure that out. And then I started waking up in the middle of the night, realizing I was having these nightmares, and during the nightmares, my back, I was like fucking folding my back in half because my body was like clenching itself because it was so tense.
I pictured like the Exorcist guy. Like
that's what I was like when I was sleeping. So, and she told me,
zombie.
She fucking told me, she's like, that I'll make that all go away. She was so confident about it. And, sure as shit, dude, it went away again. And then in episode 3, she talks about, it's gotta be the right person for you. You have to connect with your therapist. Yeah. If you're not connecting with your therapist and you're not feeling it, then you're not putting in the work, and it's just not going to work out.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I think that's maybe, I don't know, maybe you experience that, but it's got to be somebody that you connect with. So long and the short is, for me, that was kind of my breaking point in my career. I came back strong, and, you know, honestly, I'm proud to say that because of that, you know, is why I started, you know, what is now field survival training. And that's going around and teaching cops that, like, this shit is survivable. As long as you apply good tactics, you know, use your head, like, these scenarios are survivable. And then the aftermath of these scenarios is also survivable. And now, I mean, fuck, you know, I'm trying to launch that into a successful training business, which so far has been good. You've jumped on board. You know, so that's the whole reason I started this whole thing. Honestly, and even this podcast, like, you, Billy, and I talked about it, you know, like, we have experiences that we feel we can pass on to people, to make you better. and that's why we started this whole thing. And here we are, so
100 million viewers or
100 million.
Yeah. So anyways, this alone is kind of therapeutic for me.
This is good.
So that's kind
It's
of
gonna give me therapy. Like I'm gonna have to go get it because hanging out with you.
yeah. Well, so
kidding.
that's kind of my story. That was kind of my breaking point in my career. I think that was year 10 for me, 12. When all that kind of came crashing down.
And I remember, I think that's when we started to hang out a little bit more and everything
I think
too.
so.
Like,
I think you hit me up one day. You're like, dude, do you still work? Because I wasn't.
oh yeah.
Did you get fired? I'm like,
I was
no.
like, is your car ever gonna leave?
Yeah.
Like I think it's covered in dirt.
Yeah. No. But anyways, I'm grateful for it. It's experience that I don't know where else I would get, and if I could help other cops along the way, then that's kind of my goal. So
Yeah. No, and that's, I mean, personally, I have learned from your situation, and recently I've learned more from your situation too, about coping with my own traumas and stuff like that. And mine's not anywhere near, I would say, at the level. Well, I mean, I
don't say that. It's just different, dude. It's just different.
Completely different.
Yeah.
It's not. Nothing directly happened to me that didn't happen to a lot of people. So like mine is, I had a friend in the department, and he was killed in the line of duty, and I remember that, and I'll remember that day specifically, and a lot of things after it that will stick with me for a while. But how do you move on from that? Mm-hmm. Because it gives you a quick realization that it can happen at any time to anybody.
Yeah.
The person, and I'm not going to use names or anything. The person that happened to, super solid guy. He actually started training with our SWAT team and was probably going to go that route. Like it, for the most part, everyone's like, they liked him. He knew his shit kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and that's another thing is I look at it, so young in his career, he didn't even have that opportunity to go on to, where he wanted to go. Like obviously he wanted to be a cop. And so he checked that box, but he had his own goals within the department that could never happen. And, I guess I kind of use the term friend loosely. He was a friend of mine, but I think it was kind of leaning towards, we were friends coworkers, friends at work. We'd see each other outside of work every once in a while, hanging out with groups, and we were definitely friends, like texting every once in a while. But I definitely, I didn't know his wife, and I'd met her once in a different situation, and then once it all happened, going from, hey, remember me? I met you once. Like, what do you need? Kind of deal. Mm-hmm. And just the trauma that she went through, and and everyone around me, because for the most part, there was a group of us because we worked in corrections together, and that's how we became friends. So I'm still to this day, obviously, I see these people all the time, and some of them are listeners, and they're gonna probably be listening to this, go, oh yeah, I had my own issues with it or whatever. And
yeah, probably.
You sit there and I'm at loss for words. I kind of rambling about it, but you see them every day, and you're talking to them, and I think it brought a lot of people closer in the long run. But it's I don't know how to say it. It just sucks.
Yeah, no, you're right, and just so everybody knows, he was shot and killed at work on a fucking routine call for service.
Yeah, completely routine, and basically he was ambushed, and I remember where it happened. My area covers a few different cities, we would say. An area wise, and one of my offices, I was a detective at the time, and my office happened to be in that city, and I was a detective at that point. And just sitting there smoking and joking, having a good time, talking about what we probably weren't going to do for the day,
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that, working really hard kind of deal. And someone had pulled up our calls and was like, all of a sudden there's, half of the county, if not more, going to one call and clicked on it. And then didn't have the radio on. You know, you see shots fired coming. You're like, okay, we've all seen that before.
Yeah.
Or especially in my department, we've seen it before. Like, okay, scrolling down. And then you see officer hit. And then like, as soon as you saw the shots fired, someone's going for their radio, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's probably been 3 or 4 minutes at this point. Turn on the radio and don't even know who it is at this point. So we are like, fuck. I mean, like, let's go, right? Officer hit, shots fired.
Fuck yeah.
If you're within a radio shot,
Yeah, you're
I think
going.
your agency was coming.
Everyone goes to those.
Your agency was obviously coming. You know, everyone's coming. And you're like, you know, at this point, I didn't even know where the suspect was. We didn't know anything like that. So you start going, and I distinctly remember I'm going, and I'm in an unmarked vehicle, but you know, I had lights and sirens turn on. I'm going down. You know, it's not the freeway, but it's a pretty I think it's 2 or maybe 3 lanes in some spots, and rolling code, and it went down to like 1 lane, and I get behind a fire, and fucking firefighters. I get behind a fire battalion chief, and he's rolling code too, and I'm like, okay, cool, we got fire coming. He is going probably 55, 60 miles an hour, and it's a 45 zone, so he's going within his means, and I'm sitting behind him, and I didn't know at this point that basically the action's done, right? Mm-hmm. This thing has been solved, but I don't know that.
We don't
All
know
I know
that.
is that an officer, and I don't even know who it is yet, an officer that I may or may not know, doesn't matter. Doesn't even matter that it's my own agency.
Yeah.
Is injured, and I didn't even know he was pretty much done when it happened, but you know. They're pretty much always going to take an officer to the hospital.
Yeah, he's killed it immediately, but they take him.
So I'm rolling, trying to get there because I'm thinking like I'm going to be the hero, right? I'm all of a sudden of all the other 100 cops that are heading that way are already there. I'm the one who's going to be the hero, but I'm behind this firefighter, and I was so fucking pissed, going so slow. And I remember I got to one point, and he's in the fast lane, I get in the slow lane, and pass him on the right, which is not within policy. I apologize. And get there, and I'm just like, okay, what's going on? They're like, hey, just, you know, we're setting up a CP or
Command post.
And I need you to over there. We can figure out this. And I'm like sitting over there, and I'm like, so we get there, and I was like, hey, what's going on? Like, anybody know? They're like, oh, you didn't hear? And I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, someone's hit. Like, are they? And at that point, there was talk like, oh yeah, you know, it's, you know, someone's hit. It's not, you know, they're okay. They took him to the hospital, and then they tell me, okay, it's this friend of mine. And I was like, oh shit. And I'm like, what happened? And they're like, you know, he's shot, and they took him to the hospital. I'm like, okay, you know, took him to the hospital thinking like, it's all good. And then I remember stories start coming in, and it's like telephone stories get blown out of proportion. Some are low, some are high. At some point, at some point, it became the realization that he was taken to the hospital, but it's, you know, he was dead already.
Yeah.
So I remember getting on the phone with a friend that I work with now, who was also close with him, and I'm like, hey, I get on the phone, and I hear in the background, he's basically from home, you know, rolling down, and he's like asking me questions. I'm like, dude, I don't know. Here's what I'm hearing. And so this officer was, I can't remember if he was born here or not, but his Russian family. Mm-hmm. And this friend of mine was also Russian. He like born in the USSR, actually. So I make fun of him for that all the time. But I call him, and he ended up going, and God bless him, because he ends up going to the hospital because there's some cultural and language barrier things. And,
yeah,
and
for
he
sure.
was able to navigate those and help out a lot. But it was unfortunately, he was there, able to get to the hospital, and he was basically in that kind of inner circle of what exactly was happening. So I started getting news that was very actionable and very true. And you're like, fuck, you know, like it hit you. And then you're sitting at a CP, and you're like, okay, like I can't.
You feel helpless.
I can't just be done though, you know?
Yeah.
So you got to sit there. And for me, I learned real quick that in that instant trauma, mine is I got to do something. Like I can't sit. So I just started, I think I was cleaning up like trash, doing things like that. And, you know, talking to people always help. But moving on from then, I'll always remember it. I'll never get over it. And
Yeah.
I think that you guys are all in the same boat.
Yeah.
And, you know, it made me grow into the officer that I am today. And it brought relationships that I didn't know that I had closer, and they deal with the same things. And it made me realize a lot of things, like, oh, we're all like, we're trying to be tough. We're trying to do things. And like your instance where you're like thinking, oh, you know, people are going to think I'm, you know,
Weak or whatever.
whatever. I remember a friend who had got a specialty position, and this was a little bit after it, and it's what he wanted to do. And then he got to the point where he's like, hey, it's not that I can't do it. I just need to kind of step back a little bit right now. I can't be in that go position.
Yeah.
I need to, you know, take time for my own things. And I remember like thinking like, not only like, hey, good job, but like freaking high five, man. Like you did the right thing, and everyone respects that more than
Oh yeah. Hell
the
yeah.
other end, you know,
Yeah.
where you fight through it. I think it's more commendable and more respectful to be like, hey, right now, I just it's not that I can't do it or that I won't do it. It's just,
Yeah.
hey, you know, I might need to take a little break on this.
Yeah. No, that's super commendable to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I don't know if I could have.
Yeah.
You said that you don't think you can, or it's something you won't get over. Do you think you have to get over it? Like, I mean,
No. And I don't think you should
Right,
get over
yeah.
it, actually. It should be a motivator, and it should be a motivator for you to you know your tactics and everything. And that is in no way to say that tactically anything was done wrong, because it wasn't
yeah,
in this situation.
Oh yeah. I know. Yeah.
So it's a dangerous job.
Yeah.
And it's also one of those things where, you know, he had less time on the department than me. So I started to talk to people, be like, hey, if this were to happen to me, like, I remember going through and telling like, there's this thing, you sign up in the department. I don't want a chaplain going to talk to my mom. I don't want a random sergeant going to talk to my mom or my wife.
Yeah.
I
We
said,
have that as well.
this is the person. And they go, and I remember having to have that conversation with them. Like, hey man, I hope to God that I'm having this conversation for no reason. Mm-hmm. But if it happens, it sucks to be you.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I told him. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, good luck with that shit, you know?
Yeah.
That's going to be a shit show.
Yeah, that's you know, a lot of guys do not think about that, and that is a conversation, or not even a conversation, but that's something you should probably have thought out in your mind as much as you don't want to, or you're probably thinking like, I'll never have to do that. Like, that may fucking happen.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's something the department should have too. And I if your department had that, I think that's what you said.
Yeah,
That's
our
pretty
department
rad.
has it. We
Oh, really?
every year we have to refill it out, because if something changes or if one of your buddies doesn't work there anymore, you have to refill this thing out every single year. And it's if you are killed in the line of duty, who do you want to notify your family and next to kin and all that? I mean, yeah, we have to fill that out every year.
Yeah. Cause I mean, like, I remember having that thoughts like, hey, who do I want? And for me, it was pretty easy. I made the decision real quick, and it was someone who had met my wife, met my mom, you know, been around for, you know, major things in my life. So I was like, hey, I know they can, and I know they can handle it. And that's the other thing is, like, I felt like a little bit like I'm putting that kind of evil on you. Like,
Yeah.
like I don't want to do it, you know?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have to do it, but I would.
And I think for us, I've got to do it for him. Hopefully never.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine I don't even think I had that at my work. I mean, I had that conversation with my buddies, but like, it would break my heart if some random person went to my house and knocked on the door at my aunt.
Yeah,
my
no
wife's
shit.
aunt.
That would
There's
be
just
terrible.
a different connection of someone that's connected to you already has that connection.
Yeah, but okay,
You know?
so, but I get that, and I don't think your department would have had a random person necessarily, but they would have been like, oh, hey, you knew Mark.
Who's going
Like-
to do it? Or
like,
you?
go.
Or yeah.
Where it's like, you're like, hey, this is it. this is how it's done. This is what's going to happen. And you can have that conversation with them. Like, hey, you know, be careful. My wife's got a, you know, stiff right hook or something. Like, you know,
you're going to get knee in the nuts.
like, hey, step back. She's going to get violent or something. Not my wife actually would never be the violent. Maybe my mom, but,
Yeah. No, that's,
but I mean, you know, it's just those things, and people say it's morbid sometimes thinking about those things and having to talk about it, and you know, like we'll joke about it. For me, like I've joked about with my friends in the department, like at my funeral, if I ever have to have a funeral, law enforcement related funeral, I want everyone. I told them like I want everyone to wear tie-dye.
tie-dye.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was like, fuck, I don't want you guys to all look like stuffy with, you know, suits and ties or, you know, Class A uniform. I said, I want the sheriff, you know, everyone there in like their tights, you know, like looking good and everything, uniform. And they're like, then this idiots have to go up there and have a conversation in front of everybody wearing tie-dye. And they're like, what is this asshole wearing?
Yeah, no, that's unique. I mean, that's kind of
people like,
and people would
like,
do it, dude.
Yeah, I'll be like, yeah, you know what? And I want to sit up there and, you know, hopefully from heaven, I want to look down and I want to be laughing my ass off at you. Like, hey, dude, you feel
everybody
so stupid.
Everyone that goes to that knows like this is what he wanted.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
right, that's a plan. And it's like you say it's morbid and it is kind of fucking crazy because I know most people in jobs don't have those conversations, but like if you actually have those conversations, you feel good and confident. And then I hope it never happens to anybody, but at least there's a plan. And like people know, like, it's like when people get older, it's like spread my ashes here, or I want this. And it's like, when it happens, you know that that's what they wanted. And I think that's just a smart conversation.
See, mine's just different. I just want the people that are close to me in the apartment to be as embarrassed as possible.
I wanted people
like that's what I want.
I wanted people wear anything but black because black's depressing. It's a celebration. Like I want you to have a good time.
I don't even think they'd be embarrassed. I think they'd be like honored to do that. I know I would, but in that scenario, like there was another officer there, a female who also got shot, and you know she survived, and I think she listens to this show.
I think so too.
And so you know, man, we should have her on because she could give a whole different insight of like the survivor's guilt type deal, and you know she survives that, and her partner doesn't.
Yeah, and like I still talk to his wife sometimes too, and you know, talking to her of what she went through and what she goes through. And,
daily.
I'm sure you know, like we at this point, you know, I don't think we talk about it that much anymore or at all. But I mean, when we talk, it's kind of like try to keep things straight. And I think that's part of it too. And I definitely can say that I'm guilty because when it first happened, you know, there for her all the time. Hey, what do you need? And she would never contact because for the most part, she had other people there. And over time, I think it's maybe once or twice a year, maybe 3 times a year that I see her, and where it was like once a week. Hey, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need? And it just, you know, it's a guilty thing that I have. Like I feel bad about it. It's not that I don't want to be there to help, but she has other things. She has other people helping her, and I feel that if she really needed me specifically, which I can't think of a reason, she'd reach out.
Yeah, you know, it's just
no matter what. But yeah, I just don't think it's
stuff. You know, like we said earlier, like you know, things taper off. You know, you can't be that consistent all the time. Like that's just not even practical. But you know, so
well, I mean, I think it's what I also want to bring up is that I have friends in the department that are friends of mine, and whenever we see each other, it's like nothing ever changed. But sometimes I won't see him. Like we work in the same department, I won't see him for a year.
Yeah. And especially if you're working different shifts, assignments, like you never know, dude.
They'll hit me up, hey, we're doing this for my kid or something. I'll be like, I'll be there, and then all of a sudden I got to go to work or something like that, and everyone understands. But I mean, it goes back to that camaraderie or that brotherhood that like you can not see someone for a while, and then like the second you see him, it's like nothing changed. Nothing happened. Like there was like I saw him yesterday. You would think
you can talk shit with them right away. I think the biggest lesson out of this episode is just you know that this stuff is survivable. You know, we choose a lot of how we feel and think and act and behave, you know, and I guess the point is you can choose to be one way or you can choose to be the other way. And I think all three of us sitting at this table have definitely endured trauma and can say that we came out on top of it because, you know, at the end of the day, we choose to be like that. And we're choosing to talk about it and help out other first responders, you know? So, I would say that probably wraps up, that segment of, part 2. Obviously that was a lot heavier than our previous episodes, but I think it's a conversation that needs to be had. And, I don't know. I mean, I'd say cheers to that.
Roast.
Yep. You guys are all solid dudes. And, I'm thankful for this opportunity. That's for sure. So cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I guess I jumped the gun and drank too early.
It's all good. Anyways. All right. So, we're going to wrap it up. Make sure you guys go check out, fieldsurvivaltraining.com. We have a new website up. Some cool classes out there that you guys can sign up for. Again, leave a comment. Let us know what you thought. If you guys have questions, again, hit us up, and don't be a cheap bastard. And if you're listening on a podcast app, iTunes, Spotify, whatever, please give us a ranking and make sure it's 5 stars. And if you have something negative to say, don't fucking say it.
I disagree with all that. Like, give us 3 stars if it's a 3-star, and give us a bad comment if you think.
All right,
it's bad.
be honest.
Honestly,
Be honest.
How else are we gonna get better?
Oh yeah, I mean, like,
That's true. Be honest. All right.
yeah,
Lie to Kyle, be honest to Billy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Don't give me 2 stars though. 3.
Oh, really? Okay.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Is it that bad?
I don't think so. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Again, be safe, be smart, and we'll catch you later. Thank you.
See ya.
84 hours, shot fired.
Copy, additional shot fired.
Shot fired, shot fired. He's shooting at us.
Suspect shooting an officer.
Down. He's at the base of the stairs, white t-shirt, white male.